Hi, my name's Coral. I'm an artist and I live in Margate. I'm here in my studio at the moment and I'm going to do a session with you guys today called Misbehaving Monuments. And the session is all about sculpture and we're going to work with clay in particular. And we're going to explore different ways of creating clay sculptures to tell our own stories. And we can have a go at some animation as well through that. So what do we mean by a monument? So a monument can be so many different things. I think that a lot of people think monuments are just kind of big, stone, shiny sculptures, things that have happened that people want to remember. And they do that usually by creating a sculpture that's placed in specific locations. But what I think is really interesting is to try and think about smaller things that happen maybe in our everyday that we might like to turn into a sculpture. Maybe your pets, maybe it's the type of food that you like to eat for dinner, maybe it's a certain walk that you like to take and there's a tree that you really like looking at on your walk, a piece of nature. Maybe you like collecting things already. Maybe you like collecting key rings or pebbles or shells. So all these things that seem like tiny little moments in our lives, I think could be really amazing things to create a monument, to go on a plinth, to show off to people and share stories about ourselves. And so when you work with clay, it's really great to have some tools at the ready. In your pack you should have some lollipop sticks. And these are perfect to make little tools. So if you grab a pair of scissors and get an adult to help you, you can snip the end off your lollipop stick. Just like that. And there you've got a little knife. Make sure it's not too sharp, but you could change it. You could make it have a little snip in it like that. If you wanted to, or like that, or maybe you decide you want it to be a bit more round at the end, so you could try and shape it like that. So there's lots of different tools you could make, and these will help us when we get our clay. It will help us decide how the different marks we make, or how we might be able to cut into it and shape it in different ways. So I'm going to show you two particular techniques. I'll show you how to make some coils, and I'll show you how to do some slab making and making impressions in the clay as well. So yeah, we'll start off with some different techniques, but I really want you guys to bring whatever you like to the table and be really playful and experimental with how you work with the clay. So once you've got your clay, lovely chunk of clay, have a good squish first of all. Oh, it's so good. I love the feeling of clay. So there's lots of artworks that you might see in museums, and they're known as a frieze. And a frieze is usually made out of marble, but sometimes out of different materials too. And it's usually a flat piece that you'll see on the wall, and often they have imprints or impressions of different figures. So it could be people. Sometimes you'd see like people on Greek friezes and they'll be like running, or they'll be mythological creatures, different creatures. So yeah, it's a really nice way to create an interesting piece that tells a story. So if you start off with your lump of clay, what you'd like to grab now is, if you have one, a rolling pin. If you don't, then don't worry. You could use a cup from the kitchen if you have one, or you could use like a jar, for example, empty jars of jam. Or pickles, anything that will be able to help you roll out the clay so it's nice and flat. That's what I'm going to do first. So I'm just rolling it out and pressing quite hard. that. And this is your piece, so you can choose how thick you want to go, but I would say a good thickness is about the thickness of a burger. They're no thinner than that really, because you don't want it to crack as it dries. So this is air drying clay, so it will dry if you leave it overnight. It'll be perfectly dry. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start to make impressions in the surface. So you might have those objects that you collected that tell something about you. So maybe there's some of your bits and bobs from around your house or things you've collected. So I've got here like a buckle, some pebbles, a key ring my dad gave me, a little corner off a shelf. I've got bottle tops. This I collected, a little pincer. I found this on the beach. So I've got, and this is actually got a really nice texture. This lid here. Oh, and this key ring thing as well. So I'm going to have a go at using these objects to start me off with creating a really interesting surface on here. One. I'm going to do another one up here. I've got a hair clip as well. So it's kind of like making a tile. So all these different everyday objects have such interesting textures and surfaces that could be really interesting for our monument pieces. You can almost create a sort of journey. Think about it as like a map. This reminds me of like a track. So I'll hold that up to you so you can see. So all of those textures on there from just everyday objects from around me. So this is a really nice technique to create something that's a bit abstract but has a lot of things embedded in it and can tell, yeah, lots of different stories about your world from your perspective. We're going to have a go at coiling. And so coiling, it just means sausages. And through these long sausages, you can create a pot or a vessel or a certain structure. And these coils make the structure of the clay really strong. And I'll show you how to make one now. So what you want to do is pull off from your big block of clay a small chunk, or you could use your knife or your clay tool as well. So you could chop off a chunk like that. So when you've got a little bit like that, you want to put it down on our surface that we're working on, and you want to roll it out. Ooh. And that lovely sausage is our first coil. So when you've got your clay like that, a coil is simply when we go like that with both ends and we'll join it together. I'm then going to carry on by building up and up and up. And notice it's not too thin, it's quite an even thickness all the way around. And I've just used my fingers to smooth it, to join it like that. And then I'm going to get my coil from underneath and I'm going to put that on there. So it looks like a bit like a donut now. And can you see I'm just going to smooth all the way around like that. Also going to do it on the inside because you can see the line there means that it could quite easily be pulled apart. And you want to make sure it's nice and strong. So I'm going to spend some time just smoothing that together from the inside and the outside. And I'm smoothing around the edge like that. And don't worry if it goes all wibbly wobbly, that's part of working with clay, is that sometimes the clay will tell you what you need to do instead of you telling it how it should behave. So that's the start of the coiling process, and I'm going to keep going. And so a really good thing to use when you are building with clay is tinfoil. So if you've got any tinfoil at home, give it a push up like that. Nice and loose, not too tight. And you can put it I'm going to use it inside here. And that'll just mean when we keep building, it'll create a really good structure. So to turn our misbehaving monuments, our clay sculptures, into an animation, all we want to do is take a series of photographs. Photograph like that, and then I take a photograph like that, and like that, moving it piece by piece to create our stop frame animation. I hope you have a lot of fun with it.